Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is the #1 Gundam podcast where we talk about everything from the models to the anime series, the movies, the novels, and even the live-action movie, and anything really involving Gundam. Isn't that right, Brian?
That is right. And maybe nothing would epitomize that like today. What are we talking about today, Isaac?
It's another hypothetical episode, so just get ready, listeners. We're talking about what if there was a Gundam theme park. Brian, you've just been contacted by Sunrise, and they've given you essentially a blank check, an unlimited budget to create a Gundam theme park, Brian. How do you feel?
I feel excited. I'm glad that the check is blank because I think this park is going to cost about $10 billion.
Probably. And let me just start off by saying this park, parentheses S parks, it may be based in the United States and Japan or just Japan. But either way, you're the master designer, Brian. I'm co-master designer. We need to lay down the groundwork as far as what would we want in a Gundam theme park.
All right. Well, you and I have grown up living fairly close to Disneyland.
That's right.
And so I think when we think of theme parks, I think Disney is probably the template that we have in our minds. So how did you go about filling out your park? I thought of we need some sort of castle centerpiece. We need rides.
Oh, wow.
We need food. We need roaming characters. We need attractions that are not necessarily rides, right? Not everyone wants to go on rides. And then we need like live shows, parades.
Yeah.
And then we need some unique merchandise.
Yes to everything. You pretty much hit like almost all my categories on the way down. We might have gone about this different ways. I didn't so much say like, oh, what I would map it out as, what would Gundam Land be mapped out as, but instead I said, okay, you know what? It should have this, it should have this, and it should have this. So I kind of developed a list of stuff I thought, well, if in our world someone snapped their fingers and tomorrow there was a Gundam Land, I would walk in and want/expect these things to happen or be there that I wrote down.
That's kind of how I did it too.
Okay,
so which of those categories would you like to start with?
I started off with sort of addressing that this is going to be very much like Disneyland in a way that it's demographically it's marketed for kids and adults. Okay, there's some theme parks, at least here in Southern California, where it's really mainly for teenagers and up. Right, like Six Flags,
Right.
Even Knott's Berry Farm to an extent, right? So a lot of those roller coasters, they're not. I wouldn't say they're not for kids, but I would imagine teenagers and above gets more enjoyment out of most of the attractions at that park. But Disneyland, everybody wins at Disneyland, right? Kids, adults, even the elderly. They've got like some of the old timey stuff there at Disneyland, like I don't know, the barbershop quartet. I'm sure Grandpa and Grandma just love that barbershop quartet each time they go.
And the Abe Lincoln show.
Yeah, but so to kick things off, I said there should be almost like, I called it the Haro section. And I just had a vision in my head of like Haro spinning cars or bumper cars or some type of kid-friendly Haro themed ride, because in Gundam, Haro is very much like he's kind of the constant stuffed animal, maybe the most kid-friendly thing in a show about, war and World War II in space with giant robots. So I thought maybe there'd be almost like a sub little park within the park that's either a Haro-themed land or almost an SD Gundam type land where there'd be, attractions that are in those proportions and, live meet and greet with the SD Gundams. And the kids would really like it because everything's very chibi and colorful, and none of the rides are really threatening or over the top. How about you?
Yeah, I had Haro on my list as well, and I think what I came up with Haro was instead of the teacups, we could have spinning Haros. And what I like about the Haro idea for the teacups is, what sucks about the teacups is when you go, it's hot as balls outside, and there's no covering on your teacup. Well, if you had a Haro and you could sit inside the Haro, and if you picture like the top half of Haro would be the covering, and then you could enjoy the teacups and not be hot. And then the Haro comes in all different colors, and that works with the teacups. You could have different color Haros that are spinning.
Oh, that's pretty great. I'll add a little bit more seasoning to that idea. Haro's famous for flapping his wings, right, and getting a few
Yes.
inches or feet off the ground. Why can't we do that on the ride?
Oh yeah.
It'll start flapping. You'll get a little bit height out of it. That way it's not the teacups or the tilt-a-whirl or whatever.
Yeah,
We're already evolving.
Yeah, the faster you spin, the more he raises up or something.
Yeah, and of course he says Haro, 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 Haro.
Could you imagine though, like if there was, I don't know, 12 teacups at a time going, and they were all yelling Haro at the same time?
Okay, I think we could mitigate that idea though, because as you said, you're sort of sitting inside Haro, right?
Yeah.
So the speakers are only inside, so you're getting that experience. The poor people walking by, or the poor parents waiting for their kids to finish the ride, they're not being deafened by like a chorus of like 40 Haro.
You mean you don't want to share in that Haro experience?
You know what? As one of the co-masterminds of this theme park, I have to say that we're building this for the kids, but I don't necessarily want to enjoy all the attractions that are there for the kids.
And then I totally agree on the SD Gundams.
Yeah.
In terms of like the roaming character category, like obviously you could have human characters dressed up as their human counterparts. So
Sure.
Char Aznavour, Amuro Ray, Bright Noah, you get all your mainstays, Rambaral, the Zabis.
Yeah.
But then it would be hilarious to see, SD Gundams in the sort of high quality Disney / not style costumes. I don't know how to describe them. They're like big and soft, and like picture like Mickey or Pluto or whatever walking around. But it's an SD Gundam, which would be hilarious, and they could like sign autographs.
Absolutely, yeah, it'd be great. They could do little, I don't know, slapstick shows for the kids, some type of Zako Zako hour song they sing, or I don't know, Gundam saves the day. They get a cat out of a tree, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I had the same idea about the slapstick. So, one thing that's really popular at Disneyland, especially for families, is sort of the live shows where they take place in like a theater or an auditorium or something like that. Because, it gets pretty hot sometimes, both here in California and in Florida. So sometimes it's a good way for families to kind of get out of the heat for a bit.
It's good to sit.
Yeah, it's exactly.
It's good to sit at a park where you pretty much have to walk unless you're in a rascal.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So one thing they could do is take those same roaming SD Gundam characters and have them do a half-hour comedy show that's in the style of the old SD Gundam cartoons. That's very slapsticky, and then because their mouths won't move in the costumes, they could have voice actors doing the lines separately.
Maybe bring over some of that karaoke spirit from Japan, and it's a live action musical or something for the kids. Lots of options. Pretty much like the Frozen at California Adventure.
Yeah, exactly. And it would give a good opportunity to sort of not make fun of the series, but poke fun where appropriate. Whoever plays the Char Zaku, he could move really fast, like versus all the other characters, or he could be on roller skates or something. It'd be a good opportunity to get some adult humor in that maybe only the adult fans of Gundam would understand. Kind of like Disney movies. So there's some opportunity there.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, aside from that, I imagine just kiddie coasters in that area, maybe like a kiddie Ferris wheel with big Zaku helmets. All kiddie theme parks are kind of the same, right? The rides are all kind of slow and moving and colorful and friendly. So that's pretty much what it has to be.
Yeah, you basically want the Gundam version of Toontown.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. What's on your list as a number 2, Brian?
I mean, I have a lot of different rides on my list, but why don't we talk about the castle? So all Disney theme parks, they have a centrally located castle, and they look different depending on your location. So the one in Florida is really big. The one in Anaheim is the original one. The new one in Shanghai is very Chinese influenced.
Sure.
They're different around the world. Yeah. So what would your version of a central sort of Gundam thing be? I came up with a Gundam courtyard where there's just several. Because this is a blank check, I'm going to say there's several life-sized main Gundams in sort of diorama poses, maybe on pedestals or something. Maybe in the center, maybe the RX-78 is on the biggest pedestal among all the rest. And you could have the other main Gundams from the other series all there too. Unicorn, Turn A, Strike Freedom. You could go down the list. Obviously, it'd be very expensive given that these things they take a long time to build and whatnot.
Interesting. That's kind of like almost a Plaza of Heroes, Monument of Gundam Heroes, or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Sort of like
yeah.
that.
That's
Yeah,
kind of what I
they're
was thinking. Yeah.
okay. Interesting. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you said castle, so what popped into my head was, well, the Zabi Palace, but I'm that would
Oh.
sort of give negative implications, I think.
In
Right? I
this
mean,
theme park, got
yeah,
Xeon
the
1.
kids, yeah, the kids might be like, oh, this is, oh, what a cool, fun castle. It's all sci-fi, but I don't know. The more knowledgeable fans might be, oh boy, this has unfortunate implications, like you said. What else popped in my head was maybe a colony sticking out of the ground or something, or yeah, just the towering Gundam statue itself. But I didn't envision my park having a castle, not because it doesn't need a central area, but just because I couldn't think of something iconic that would go in the center of a park. I have something similar that moves, but we'll get to that later. I just imagined that it would have like maybe a central nexus that can direct you into different areas, the food area, etc., rides.
So what are some of your rides?
Ooh, oh boy. Let me just say this. I didn't go too in depth about different roller coasters or Gundam coasters, not to discount roller coaster engineering or anything like that, but we all know what roller coasters are. A Gundam roller coaster would be, in Gundam colors or whatever, and blah blah blah. But I thought a really awesome ride would be almost a VR experience. You have your VR headset. You're put in like a cockpit that's very similar to maybe some type of military training cockpit in a way. It's designed to rotate and roll and all that. And you're suited up. You get in there, and maybe you're thrown into like a cooperative team or 1v1 type combat, and you just go at it. You have little joysticks, and it's just a fun, moving type VR experience. I think that's something that we're clearly heading towards, technologically speaking, and it would be very much in the way of literally giving a lot of fans a Gundam cockpit experience without actually putting them in a mobile suit.
Yeah, I agree. This was on my list of things that the park had to have. Was basically some sort of like VR mobile suit simulator.
Oh, okay.
It was also the last ride that I came up with because I filled out all the roller coasters, and then I was like, yeah, but I still really want like a roller coaster is exciting, but it doesn't satisfy that I'm in a mobile suit, right?
Yeah.
And if you come to Gundam Land, you need to be able to pilot a Gundam, right?
Yeah. Ooh,
So
okay.
in my simulator, I was thinking you could either make it like the Battle of Solomon or the Jabro invasion. And what would be fun is if it was a shared VR experience. So maybe there's like a 50-person battle. So maybe they have like 50 of these cockpits set up. And maybe instead of all starting at the same time, maybe it's just timed and you do your 10 minutes and then you get out, or your 5 minutes and then you get out. Now that could be complicated. That would basically be creating an entirely new video game just for this park, which maybe that would be what you'd have to do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And like you said, you would need like a pretty cool cockpit setup. I'm picturing a bunch of the Sazabi cockpits that are the little balls that like detach.
Sphere.
So, yeah,
Right.
so the spheres, right? So if they had like 50 of those set up, and you went into your sphere,
Wow,
and then it
50.
closed. Well, however many you can get on.
Okay. Well, I forgot. We have a
at a
limited
time.
budget. Continue,
Right.
sir.
So blank check. You said blank check.
That's right. You got me.
But then I was wondering, like, how you would need a lot of haptic feedback, right? Like, you would need to have the feeling of flying forward or backward, or walking forward, walking backward. And then, do you think, because again, this attraction, because it's marketed towards everybody, would a space battle be too disorienting? Would you have to make it a ground battle? I think you might.
You know what? I almost didn't reach that point because I sort of stopped myself short. I sort of said, okay, they had the VR experience. They're in the cockpit. Is this essentially going to become a limited rail shooter? Like, they're not going to be in this cockpit for 30 minutes. They're going to get an experience out of it. It's going to be like a roller coaster, maybe under 5 minutes tops, probably less. If you put them on sort of a rails type shooter and they're really just more looking around, shooting, and have limited control as far as where they're actually moving, I think it's much more easier to manage. And as far as team wise, or if they're fighting each other, it's one squadron versus another squadron, or just 1v1. Depending on the scale of the battle, like a Baoku, you could tell people they're in, 5-man teams versus another 5-man team, but they're really only going to be seeing like, one enemy player.
Right.
So I thought that's kind of a way to sidestep it and say, well, you were in a cockpit, you got the whole experience. You couldn't exactly fly rings around Saturn if you wanted to in the time you had, but you were in the battle and you got to watch it.
Yeah. However they do it, you would need some sort of mobile suit simulator where you sit in a cockpit.
I didn't really answer your question. Sorry about that. I definitely agree though that if we go on land, you completely eliminate like the massive freedom and massive work that would be required in programming how exactly they're moving through space and the collision that would be involved with that, etc. So yes, being on ground might be much better, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so some of my other rides, I took maybe the more famous rides from Disneyland and I tried to replace them with a Gundam equivalent. So one of my big ones is, because it's going to come back later, is the Matterhorn. So for those who are not aware, the Matterhorn is this big mountain. It's a real mountain in the real world in Switzerland, I think. Is it Switzerland?
Yes, you're right. I believe you're right.
It's in Switzerland, but there is sort of this very mini replica at Disneyland, and I assume there's one in Disney World too. But it sits relatively in the center of the park, a little off center, and it has a very distinct shape. And so you can see it sort of as you drive up to Disneyland. So that's kind of how you know, like, you're getting pretty close. You can see the Matterhorn. So I feel like Gundam Land would need something similar. So I was thinking it could be Axis, and Axis has a distinct shape as well. And if you do that, you could have a coaster that goes inside and outside of Axis, and you could have the new Gundam and the Sazabi, locked in battle on top of Axis somewhere, which would be a pretty cool visual. If you're, just attending the park all day, you could look up and see the new and Sazabi clashing. And then I'll come back later why I think it should be Axis. But so that's my Matterhorn.
Brian, that like gives me images of Space Mountain, essentially, right? Or when it was Hyperspace Mountain, you're pretty much in there, and you're on a coaster, but at the same time you can like look at the screens and the walls, and there's an actual battle happening. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, and my Space Mountain. Good thing you bring that up. My Space Mountain would be a Baoku, and that would be like a dark room coaster, just like Space Mountain, where you are in the room, and because there's so much happening in a Baoku, I figured the only way to capture that would be in a dark room with screens.
Right.
And so I think that'd be cool. It kind of exactly like you said, just like Hyperspace Mountain when they changed it to be, I think it was like an X-Wing battle, right? And they were fighting. Yeah,
it was X-Wings and TIE
Death Star,
Fighters.
was it? Yeah, okay, X-Wings and TIE Fighters, yeah. So that was really fun, and I think that would give you a good sense of being there in the chaos of Baoku. It could be a cool light show.
I love it. Yeah, that's what's great too is about like a Baoku. At Baoku Mountain or whatever it would be. I mean, we see so much of the interior of the base, so it makes perfect sense that you'd be on like a little coaster going through the interior of the base and maybe popping out to the surface and back and forth, watching the battle continue and deteriorate for Zeon.
Yeah. So another famous ride at Disneyland is the Jungle Cruise, which is a very,
oh my god,
it's a very family ride. It's very slow moving, right?
Fun. I'd call it fun.
It's fun.
It might be the campiest ride at Disneyland.
Yeah. So what would the Gundam equivalent be? Now, obviously, Gundam doesn't have a lot of animals, right? They probably all died when Operation British happened, but we do have Anaheim Electronics, and you could take a tour through the Anaheim Electronics, factory.
Oh, wow.
Or they could treat it like a museum. Maybe you're meeting like the archival person at Anaheim Electronics, and over the years they've collected a whole bunch of important mobile suit parts. Maybe they collected parts of the Gundam Alex, or maybe they located what's left of the RX-78, or just famous beam rifles or something. And the person could take you through it, explain things, and you could ride on a cool little Anaheim Electronics like lunar buggy or something.
Why not? Yeah.
Same basic idea where it's slow moving. You have a tour guide that makes wisecracks. Some are good, some are bad.
I like that. Yeah. You can watch like prototypes kind of fail or something like that.
Yeah. You could watch those pathetic gun cannons from Gundam The Origin in the background.
Oh god. You know what I thought you were gonna say when you said Jungle Cruise? I thought you were gonna say like, oh, this is like the 8th MS team kind of thing. Like a Gundam head will pop out of the water,
Oh,
motion your boat to safety, and you'll fend off a couple Zaku's. You'll pass the little gorilla village that they had.
yeah. That could work too, but I didn't want to. I tried to stay away from like things that required too much of the Gundams moving because they're so big, and they would take. It would be so expensive, even if you have a blank check. Like it would be, if that was doable, we would have that already at Disneyland. So it's still a little ways away.
Yeah, but I mean, at the Jungle Cruise though, like a hippo does kind of come out of the water, I think, or something like that. So it's conceivable we can have like a light up Gundam head just pop up and come down. We don't need the whole suit to come out.
Yeah,
but we have unlimited budget, Brian, from private investors.
Well, I was trying to keep them like the right size. So obviously a hippo is much smaller than
Gundam head.
Yeah, the RX-79. So yeah, I got a few more here. So. One of the newer, more popular attractions is that Millennium Falcon ride called Smuggler's Run.
Ah.
And I thought one of the best parts of that ride, I actually don't think the ride is the greatest when you actually go on it. But I think the best part is like being able to walk through the Millennium Falcon.
There you go.
And so instead of a Millennium Falcon, let's build a white base and just dock it somewhere, and you can walk through it. You can walk on the bridge. You could take pictures. Maybe that's the attraction, is when you finally get to the bridge. You and whatever 10 other people get to do different things on the screens for a little bit. You get to play through a battle, and instead of one person being the commander, because I feel like that's a really key role, maybe there is just like legitimately Captain Bright in there, and he directs everyone what to do. I think it'd be pretty fun, right? Because it'd be like a team game. Some people could be gunners, and they could sit in actual gunner seats, which is probably one of the biggest disappointments of the Millennium Falcon ride, is the gunner doesn't sit in the gunner seat, and instead he presses a button on a screen. Anyway, I'm not bitter.
Yeah. I can see so many people though getting sick if they're actually in like the gunner seat though, and like it's rotating and they're like inverted, and
it's an optional ride.
You
don't have to go on the ride.
They have the added stress of the stress of TIE fighters attacking them.
Yeah.
My white base idea was a bit more toned down. If you know Disneyland, there's a big boat. There's a big riverboat. So I thought, the white base is going to be kind of like the riverboat in a way. It'll just, I don't know, it'll be a glorified hovercraft, or maybe it'll be on its own rail system on the water. But, there'll be a passenger area. You just kind of board on. Maybe it'll cross some water and take you to another side of the park. And that's about it.
Why don't we combine the ideas? You get on the ride one area, and then you ride during the battle. It rides over, and then you get off in a different area.
Yeah, there's no reason there can't be an area that just, you're a passenger, and then an area where, you're actually on the experience.
Yeah.
And, all the walls are just screens, and instead of a window up there in the bridge, you're actually viewing, screens that show a fleet battle or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And then you could, maybe they even have like a mess hall. You get something to eat.
Ooh, I like that.
You can drop your kids off for Fraubo. So that's where the daycare is.
I've got a little bit to say about food, but we'll get to that later. For Bawaku, kind of going off what you said, the Space Mountain type thing. Okay, I've seen some roller coasters lately. At least there's one at SeaWorld where you're essentially hanging face down. And I thought that would be perfect with how Char was going through a Bawaku on his jetpack. So it would essentially be the jetpack ride. And I imagine it'd be a little harrowing. So hopefully, I don't think kids will be allowed to go on it because of how you're holstered up there. But I thought that'd be cool to have like a jetpack ride, because we always see the jetpacks in Gundam. A mobile suit's damaged, the pilot pops out in the jetpack.
Yep.
Need to get around a base in space, you're in a jetpack. So I thought, let's just combine that with the way you travel on some of the new roller coasters, hanging face down.
That's a great idea, actually. Like, I'm a big fan of roller coasters where you don't sit like a normal roller coaster. So like the one you just said, but there's also some at Six Flags, right? Like, for example, I think Riddler, you stand up, and Batman, you are hang in the harness. And I think hanging would work well for a space battle as well, where your feet aren't touching the ground. That would kind of give you the sensation of being in space, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Why not? Speaking of not touching the ground, one of my ride ideas was okay, every theme park has a drop ride. And by that I
Mm,
mean not a roller coaster that, reaches a peak and then just goes down the tracks. I mean like the Guardians of the Galaxy,
yep,
escape ride. It
yep,
used to be the Tower of Terror.
yep.
I forgot what the one is. Is it called Goliath at Magic Mountain or something?
No,
But
is it
anyway,
Superman?
yeah. Yeah,
It's
I think you're
Superman,
right.
right?
Superman.
Yeah, Superman.
All listeners, you know what we're talking about, right? It's a large tower. You get at the bottom, the track system lifts you up. You go up, several dozen stories up, and then the system drops you, and gravity just, you're
Mm.
essentially riding down, up and down. So for that, I thought it'd be cool if it was maybe either a colony drop or a reentry capsule. So
That could be
yeah,
fun. I
yeah,
like the
yeah.
the
I thought
reentry
it
capsule is an interesting
right.
idea.
Right. I thought maybe instead of just, being seats and you're facing the open air, the reentry capsule or the colony drop would work better because you could be inside like you are with the Guardians of the Galaxy ride and you're watching, sort of screens and they show you either if you're a reentry capsule, probably falling past a battle or just going through Earth's atmosphere and how intense that could be. Or if you're in a colony, just the deteriorating situation as you fall.
I actually thought of the Tower of Terror as well. However, I didn't think of a colony drop. I thought it would be a great opportunity to do the double O space elevator drop.
Oh god. So you're in the space elevator while it's while it's in the middle of that battle where it ends up
Yes,
collapsing.
yes, and maybe Setsun and his friends are flying around outside
Oh,
communicating
and
with you.
they
Yeah,
save you, kind of
yeah, and
like
they
in
save you.
the
Yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Oh, I like that. Yeah,
Definitely need a drop ride though. Totally agree.
yeah, it's mandatory. Something kind of experimental that I thought of that you mentioned a little bit that you thought of too was I'm calling it a zero gravity area. My vision was that park attendees were in normal suits maybe and whether they're in like a dark essentially a sound stage almost or maybe even underwater somehow if they consented to being submerged while wearing
Yep.
a normal suit. The goal is really to simulate that they're in zero G. So
Yeah.
whether that means we put tension strings on the arms and legs and their back of the normal suit to really limit how much they can move at
Yeah.
the speed they can move. We put a VR screen on their I don't know what you'd call it the glass of the normal suit
Yeah.
helmet.
The visor.
Yeah, the visor. I called it Escape from Shoal Zone. So you're in a normal suit. Maybe your ship blew up. Who knows what the lore is or what the setting is?
Yeah.
And you can't really move too great. But guess what? You're in zero G, so you're gonna be maybe hopping or moving from a piece of shoal to piece of shoal, and you get to your rescue ship. So that was my vision, whether it's underwater or not.
Yeah, I mean they have zero G simulators places. I definitely think it could work, and I definitely think it's worthy of inclusion. I mean, because Gundam is somewhat, grounded in reality, I think it would be a good opportunity to. I'm not saying it would turn into like a NASA park, but
Right.
you could have a lot of things that sort of promote space and like, oh, this is what it would be like to live in zero gravity. This would be, this is how we would grow our food. This is how, colonies work. This is what space smells like. Apparently
Mhm.
space smells like burnt metal.
Yeah, I
Um,
heard that.
so could be definitely kind of cool. And I think, being in zero G is definitely something that people might expect from something like this, from a Gundam land, right? Because since so much of it takes place in space, again, like you said, I don't know how technically feasible it would be to do it on a mass scale, right? If this could be a busy ride if there's thousands of people going there every day.
Yeah, true. Well, did you have any other rides?
I had two more rides. One,
Tell me.
so Radiator Springs Racers is really fun in California
You're right
Adventure.
about that. Yeah.
So I feel like we need a racing ride, and so I thought we could do like the Gundam 00 Trans Am Racers, where you both sit in a suit from 00, and then it goes
Uh-huh.
into Trans Am mode, and they go real fast, and they just race. Pretty basic, but I think people would
Right.
enjoy racing ride. I felt like we really needed a water ride, but I really couldn't think of one. So instead, I turned it into like a children's water park, and where it's just the children are playing underneath a Juwagu, who is like, shooting water out of its trunk and all of its
course.
little fingers, and it just turns the Juagu into this like nice kid-friendly entertainment option, and it made me laugh because of your love for the Juagu. So
Of course. I like it. I like it already. I had something similar for the kids. I called it the Ruined Mobile Suit Jungle Gym.
It sounds so rusty and dangerous.
I mean, you could be like an adult fan and want to take pictures next to like, ruined Zaku's and, damaged GMs and all that. But it's essentially almost overgrowth covered mobile suits. So they've been damaged or whatever, but it's designed for the kids to play on, stuff like that. You could take pictures with them if you wanted, but for the most part, it was a glorified jungle gym, I thought, because I don't know, maybe the parents need something like that for the kids to physically exert themselves on.
Yeah, I had a similar idea. The way I thought of it, it would kind of be like the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse, or kind of like
Absolutely
Mark Twain's Island.
Yep,
that's exactly not Mark Twain's Island. Tom Sawyer's Island.
Yeah, Mark Twain's Island. They're just piles of books. All right, kids, time to read. Yeah, that's pretty much what I saw it as. I think before it became, what is it now? It's like Indiana Jones is not Treehouse, but
no. So the treehouse is now Tarzan's treehouse.
Oh, of course, Tarzan's treehouse.
Tom Sawyer's Island is now, I think, is it Pirates of the Caribbean Island or something like that?
I hope not. It doesn't look like anything like the Pirates would be at, right? It's got like a wood shack from the 1800s. It's Phantasmic Island. That's what it'll always be.
No, it's called Pirate's Lair now.
Oh God. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Oh well. Because I was trying to think of a way to like get the different Gundam series into this park.
Yeah.
And so mine is, I called it Heroes Reflection Lagoon, and it would be the destroyed Wing Zero custom from Endless Waltz at the end when it's all beat up, it's all charred and all that. There's like a famous still that's on a lot of the merchandise. I think it's on like the soundtracks and stuff. And Hero could be sitting at the top of it, in his little contemplative pose, and people could walk up it, and like you said, there'd be little activities as you walk up it, and eventually you could take pictures with Hero at the top and poses and stuff like that. So, and it would look really cool, from the ground, right? It would be a sort of this ruined Gundam. So yeah, I totally agree. I think we're on the same page on that one.
Nice. Hang on real quick. Do you consider the monorail a ride? Because I had a monorail section. I wasn't sure. Some people consider it a ride. Some people love that monorail.
I would consider it a ride. I mean, it's fun.
Okay.
It's basically a train, but I like it.
All I put was there's instead of windows, there's screens, and you're probably going inside like a Musai, and you're watching other Musais fly by or Salamis or something like that.
Would the monorail still look like a monorail, or would it be stylized somehow?
I think it would be either in Zeonic or Federation color. Maybe you decide, right? There's two different. There's more than one monorail, so maybe you got the Federation one or the Xeon one. And
what if you're trying to get somewhere on time and like the Xeon one pulls up and you're like, absolutely not. I refuse to ride the Xeon.
If you're that much of a fan, you're probably like vandalizing the Xeon one anyways. So like security will be quickly there to escort you from the park.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like the monorail idea. That's good.
All right. That's all I put. But anyways, continue on to shows and attractions and non-ride entertainment.
Okay. So one thing that's really popular right now at Disneyland is the lightsaber shop where you can build your own lightsaber. And there's also a similar thing where you can build your own droid.
Yeah.
And so I think we have the obvious substitute here of Sei Iori's Gunpla Factory, and Sei Iori being the character from Build Fighters. So it would be, all themed after him. And these are all of his, modular option parts for like a 1x144 scale, Gunpla. And it's just all of Sei's inventory that he's collected over the years that he just keeps on hand in case he needs to build things. You could even have a wider selection of actual Gunpla kits in the back for adults who want to buy them. They could have, ones from the past, like the models, like what we talked about before, the ones from like 1979, just hanging on the wall, stuff like that. You could pick all your parts. You pay like a flat fee, and you get to pick your feet, your legs, your arms, your torso, your head, and that way it allows the kids to like customize their Gundam, and they get to put it all together. You could have gunpla lessons there, and then even in addition to gunpla, you could sell haros there, and you could have people. You can customize your own haro. What color do you want your haro? Do you want the top a different color than the bottom? Give it legs and arms. You could record a little message. What do you want it to say? Like hello Isaac, hello Isaac, or yeah. That's my gunpla factory.
I love that idea. I had my own Gunpla kind of a thing there because mine was going more off of that Galaxy's Edge has like a droid building area, right?
Yep.
So I thought, we essentially need a super Lego store, but not for Lego, but for Gundam.
Yep.
So I thought it would have every model that's available. It would have exclusive models that you can't really get anywhere else outside the park. There would be custom pieces. There would be supplemental kits, like maybe, alternative weapons or stickers or what have you. And also, there'd be an actual building area and all the glue, the paint, whatever. It's available for you. You just go there and, set up. Maybe your kid really wants to build a model. Maybe he doesn't really like the rides too much or something or whatever, or she. And also, I like the idea of having there be model building mentors there because, sometimes you run into a snag or you need help, and maybe the parents aren't really model building experts, but mentors would be there to help out and show how it gets done and maybe help you out with the tricky part or something like that.
Yeah, totally. And actually, Gundam has a sort of a history of this already. There is what's called the Gundam base, Odaiba, Tokyo, Japan, and that is like the biggest Gunpla store in the world, and it has all the kits. And they do have Gunpla lessons there. Like you can go get a lesson from the store pro or whatever.
There you go.
So they have that already. So now they just need another one of those, but in the park.
Just put it in the park. Make it like, I don't know. You could even make it like a factory or whatever, the workshop, the mech yard. I don't know. Something like that. Put them in overalls. Yeah, with little Federation logos or something.
Yeah.
So what's another attraction you had?
Okay, so this one, again, you said blank check. So I think it would be cool if just once per night, the Gundam X rose up from somewhere and
wow,
and like they had some sort of beam effect that shot down from the moon to like charge up its satellite cannon, and he would maybe fire it at some area in the distance, or maybe they would somehow put a colony in the sky, and he would Garrett would shoot it down or something, some kind of light show. I thought that would be cool.
Oh my God, Brian, we get to watch millions of people die.
No,
those colonies aren't empty.
Well,
did you think about that?
He doesn't have to necessarily fire it at a colony. He could fire it at a mobile armor or something.
All right, you got me there. But I mean, I like this idea. Let me just say that, and I think there's workarounds to how they could visually get close enough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Universal Studios. They had they had the Wizarding World there, and they did like the Dark Arts Night or something like that, right, for Halloween last year and all that. It's essentially like a a light show and all that. But at the end, spoiler alerts, if anybody if any of you Wizarding Harry Potter fans didn't know this existed, a Patronus appears in the sky made out of drones.
Oh.
So I figured, well, why can't we just have a large drone, essentially from the perspective of where the audience is? I think as long as they're in the same spot and they're not really moving around, you can capture essentially that the drone is synced up to the moon, hovering in front of the moon, and then it fires the laser, right? From the moon-based Gundam X.
Totally.
And then the Gundam X, of course, can fire its own laser. And the Gundam X doesn't need to just shoot at the sky. Why can't we have, after the Gundam X gets powered up by this drone, why can't we just have the Gundam X fire at a drone blimp that's in the shape of a colony, or like you said, a mobile armor or a capital ship? So visually we can get very close to making it real, I think.
Yeah, I think it'd be neat. And I picture it as like one of those things where you don't even necessarily have to, I hate lining up for parades. It's so boring. So I feel like it'd be just something that would happen at a certain time of night if it was like a full moon or whatever. I just think it'd be something that just happens in the park. Like it makes the park feel alive.
Oh God. Oh, it would fit into the lore so much that like people actually go when there's a full moon
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
because if you remember the show Gundam X, they really could only use that weapon when there was a full moon. If there wasn't a full moon, they can't use that weapon. I can see why this weapon was so limited. Yeah, hey man, I have 2 parades written down. Okay,
No, I do,
to
I do
parades.
too.
Oh,
I do too.
okay.
But you don't want to like go there, and then
Yeah.
you want to see all the parades, and if you want to see all the parades, you got to wait in line for like 2 hours for each parade, so you can sit on like an uncomfortable part of the sidewalk. So
Yeah.
I don't know. What's one of your parades?
Oh, okay. Well, let's stick with. Can we wrap up attractions first
Yeah,
before
sure.
we move on?
I got one more
Okay.
too. So.
Well, actually, I guess you can include parades and attractions, right? Oh, at this point, we're done with rides. Everything's
everything's
on the table.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, going off your Gundam X idea, my idea was I called it the Pegasus class launch show, and this would be at night. It would be marketed to attendees as, oh, we're launching a new Pegasus class. Be at the waterfront tonight. Be at the water area tonight. Get a good spot. This is a new Pegasus class. Maybe it's a new white base or something like that. I don't know. Whatever it is. It's a new Pegasus class. And we say it's going to be a live launch. But the show starts, and it's maybe the Federation or scientists or whatever. They're telling people how great this new ship is. It's kind of floating around on the water or whatever. But it turns into a Xeon ambush.
Ooh.
So in different areas of the park, we see like the, Zaku's or Doms, whatever, start standing up. The hosts, they kind of go into crisis mode, and it looks like things are going bad. Laser lights are going off and fireworks are blowing up. Maybe the parts of the water catches fire. Fuel depot got hit. But of course, who comes to save the day, Brian? A Gundam comes to save the day. So it triumphs over the Xeon, maybe fights them off, maybe blows up a couple. Yeah, saves the day.
I love that. I love the park coming alive. That would be super cool. And maybe, like you said, if the Zaku's and the Doms or whatever are just kind of sitting there deactivated during the day, and maybe they, like you said, they stand up, and that'd be pretty cool.
Or I don't know, depending on how they're controlling the park. Parts of everybody almost gets corralled to the waterfront at the time of the show because of how special it is. It's a Pegasus class launch show, and maybe people are like, oh wow, we've never seen that before. Is this really happening? But again, going off of Universal Studios Wizarding World, my logic was that was such an ambush because they marketed it as, oh, we're going to see the evil magic, but they didn't say anything about the Patronus showing up and the good guys kind of saving the day and saving Hogwarts at the end. The good guys are going to show up, but the fact that people were just gasping when they saw the giant drone light up show of a Patronus in the sky. I figured this will be the equivalent because no one's expecting it to go bad and turn into like a fireworks kind of explosion laser show. So yeah, I thought that'd be cool to kind of ambush people literally and figuratively, pun intended.
Yeah, I like that. And then, you know what? How about some cross-promotional synergy here? So the Gundam that comes out to save the day at the end would be like the exclusive Gundam for that park. And that would be the exclusive model that they could sell at the show or at the Gunpla factory.
Oh, I like that. Whatever we call it. Gundam Interceptor or Gundam.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. Damn.
Gundam Land Gundam.
What's another attraction you had?
So my last attraction besides parades is Domon's Dojo. So here, kids can go in and get a free martial arts lesson from Domon and Master Asia, aka the undefeated of the East. And I think it'd be a good way to pass the time, dress up to get, the kids get to dress up in a gi. They get a free lesson. Takes half an hour. The parents get to sit down for a little bit. Nice air conditioned room. I think it could be fun. The instructor would dress like Domon. They could all get like Shuffle Alliance temporary tattoos on the way out or something.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, really something physical again for the kids. I mean, could adults do it, or is it kind of like it's a little frowned upon? It's like it would be like adults trying to do like the whole lightsaber ceremony at Disneyland. It's like, well, come on, buddy, you had your chance years ago.
Or like the adult that gets mad in Ollivanders at the Wizarding World when they don't get chosen to get the wand.
Does that happen?
Yeah, man.
Oh, it probably happened once, right?
Every time I've gone in there, they always choose the kid, as they should. right? Not like the 40-year-old in the back who's like, I want I want the one with the unicorn hair.
Yeah. It's okay. It's funny you mentioned G Gundam because I had something similar. I called it G Gundam Fight. You watch a live action mobile fighter match.
I had the same thing.
Yeah, but maybe okay. I wasn't sure if this is something that happens once a day, or you can kind of catch a fight at different times of the day, and it's
I
always
like that.
yeah, and it's always different countries fighting. I wanted it to be very diverse. You're not going to see the same show twice.
I like that.
But again, I brought in an ambush factor, Brian. I thought we'd add a twist in where as the two are fighting it out. Again, I don't know if this is like, large scale animatronics doing this, or maybe we have, the audience sit down and they're watching.
I was picturing actors dressed up as the Gundams because I didn't know how else you could make them like fight well enough.
Yeah.
I guess. But,
that's true.
Yeah.
That could work. Maybe we put them in some type of setting and then we tell the audience, oh, this is, we're being streamed a live hologram.
Right.
Or something. And depending on like the mist and where the audience is sitting and all that, it might be believable in visual. Okay. Anyways, back to the twist. So in the middle of the match, maybe it's close. Guess who shows up, Brian?
Master Asia?
No.
Schwarzbruder?
It's the Dark Gundam.
Oh, yeah.
The Dark Gundam shows up in all its monstrosity, and now the two countries have to put aside their differences and team up against the Dark Gundam. This wasn't just mentioned at all on the little fight bill. So the two countries work together. They fight off the Gundam. The Dark Gundam flees, and then the two mobile fighters, they join hands. They raise them in the air, and the crowd cheers.
I love it.
Reinforces, cooperation against common threats and our need to work together as one world.
Yeah, kids learn teamwork. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we don't like Dark Gundam.
Yeah, and you could they could sell like the fight posters from that day.
Oh yeah. I imagine, international visitors will go nuts buying their own country's colors, their own country Gundam, their own country merch. We'll talk about merch later.
Yeah.
But
okay, so two quick shows, not much to say about them, but one, this would give Bandai a good opportunity to bring back like the singers for some of the opening songs. They could always just have concerts for those songs.
Yes.
Easy attraction there. You could also, one of the big favorite parades at Disneyland is the Main Street Electrical Parade. We could do that, but we could just use neon haros instead.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of little spinning neon haros would be just this seizure of lights. It'd be great. And then, the other popular parades I was trying to find like a replacement for Fantasmic and for World of Color.
Uh-huh.
And so for Fantasmic, I was thinking, because here I'm bringing Axis back now, because in my park we have Axis as the Matterhorn sitting in the middle of the park.
Oh my God.
You could, have that same classic feel as Fantasmic where, Mickey's trying to triumph or whatever. But instead, everyone, Amuro and Char going at it at the end of Char's counterattack. And then all the attendees have to lend their will to Amuro to push Axis back. And then eventually Axis lights up, with the green psycho frame, crazy colors. And that's the end. I don't know how they would do it with lights and stuff, but I'm sure there's a way they could make it sort of glitter or look pretty neat.
Drones.
So that's my Fantasmic. Yeah, so maybe drones are the future. So that's my Fantasmic is the Axis Shock parade.
Oh,
not really a parade, but a show. I guess it's more of a show.
We'll combine it with a parade, and then we'll see the swarm circling Axis or something.
Yeah.
I like that. That's pretty cool. Let's see, what else did I have? Oh, this was pretty similar to something you mentioned earlier. I called it the Prototype Comedy Show. It's a slapstick type comedy show. I think you said you wanted yours in Anaheim Electronics, and I guess this would pretty much go there too, or it's pretty much the same thing. I thought maybe it's like a scientist and like a test pilot. Maybe you don't even see the test pilot. You just see like, a screen and like it's like, oh, we had the test pilot live. But anyways, it'd be like a scientist or two, and they're testing like a Zaku Zero or a Minovsky Mark I or something like that. But it's just a comedy show about like, the mobile suit failing or, clumsily falling around and all that. And so not much to say there, but yeah.
I'm always good for more comedy shows. I think the park could use more of those.
Yeah. Speaking of other types of shows, though, before I get to, the parade and all that. I thought, okay, at night we need some type of colony laser solar rays light show, fireworks show, laser show. I'm not particularly sure like the exact details of it, but I thought, those names being involved with it, we could do a lot with reflecting light and lasers and fireworks and all that. Something along those lines. See, did you have any other parades or?
Did have one funny parade that I made just for
Ooh.
you, which was called the 0083 Federation Naval Review.
Oh boy.
It would be it would be all the Federation ships coming out and parading around, but then all of a sudden they would be interrupted by the Noisiel, and he would just like crash through them all and like wreck the parade, and then it was meant to be like kind of funny, but like done with like the chibi costumes, so it's not like super serious, and yeah.
And like the chibi Noisiel. I don't think I've ever seen one, but
I mean, I guess maybe it would be more appropriate if it was the GPO2, but yeah, maybe he would like, the GPO2 would fly down and like nuke them all with his little chibi bazooka. It could be funny but morbid at the same time.
It shoots confetti into the audience or something
there
like
you
that.
Go.
They like, they keep warned that like the nuke is about to fire to the audience instead of the fleet, and then like just confetti. I had two parades. My first parade, no surprise to anybody, was called the Xeon Parade. So the attendees would feel like they're at Zum City, and this is a massive victory parade. So there'd be Xeon flags, there'd be Xeon troops marching. Ideally, somehow we'll have mobile suits marching. But Xeon doesn't only have mobile suits, though. So we could have things like Magella top tanks, a flyover from those Xeon aircraft, a speech from Girin. And, I thought it'd be cool if Char and Garma were maybe in the parade. They could be in little jeeps waving or something like that.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And my other parade was, I know this isn't really a holiday, but there technically has to be a day the Federation was created. So I called it Federation Day Parade. It's essentially every day at the park, right? Because are people really going to go to the park 2 days in a row?
No.
So anyways, Federation Day Parade. So it'd be very much the same thing, but just a Federation flavor. So it'd be those double-barreled Federation tanks going down the main street. It'd be gun tanks, hopefully, some Federal troops, and maybe even a speech by General Revel.
Oh yeah, you gotta have that General Revel.
Yeah,
he's like Federation Santa Claus.
Pretty much. He's like, Santa Claus. Maybe when it's Christmas time, like all General Revel posters will like just have him in, a Santa hat or something.
I'm pretty much out of parades and shows. I guess I have one more. I was trying to replace like World of Color, which is like a watercolor show, California Adventure. I feel like Bandai would want to do something with Gundam Unicorn. Because I guess World of Color, they project that on water, right?
Yeah.
So you can do something similar to that where Bonager asks for everyone's help, and then he eventually awakens the green unicorn at the end. That way you can cycle through the colors. You got the red from the normal unicorn, you got the gold from the Banshee, and then you get the green at the end from the awakened unicorn. So it could be a fun color show, because I guarantee unicorn would have to be in there somewhere. So.
Oh, you know what else they could put in like a water show like that, Brian? If you remember Fantasmic, they like project a lot on screens that are kind of made out of mist.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're projected.
So,
they create the mist screen, and they use that as the medium.
There you go. We can do like highlights. Oh God, you could even do like a dark history kind of show.
Oh,
it's just like I mean, dark history sounds so sinister, but it would at least allow us to view like the highlights of every series.
Yeah.
So lots of potential there with those mist screens.
Yeah, let's get those going for every show.
Yeah. I kind of have three things left. In no particular order, did you have anything about food?
Yeah, I didn't, because I do feel like they've got the Gundam food all figured out. If you just look at like the Gundam Cafe menu, they've got there's a lot of opportunity there. I could have done a whole show on Gundam themed food, so I figured that you had some good ideas, and I left that one to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of ideas, but to an extent, I don't think there's a lot to say, because I feel like on the one hand, it shouldn't be, just Japanese food, but at the same time, there's a limit to how you can Gundamize food, right? You
Yep.
essentially cut it to look a certain way, or visually make it look very Gundam, right?
Yeah.
There's that element to it. To an extent, that's a dead end. The only thing that really stuck out to me that we see a lot in Gundam is those juice bottles, those squeeze bottles with the straw that the pilots are always drinking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I thought, you know what, that's pretty. I mean, as far as food receptacles, that's pretty iconic. So I figured that should be almost all over the park. Like we should almost make it a point where you can't really get a drink in anything but that. They'll be small, medium, and large. But guess what? We want people to know you're at a Gundam theme park. This isn't a theme park that looks like Gundam. This is Gundam Land. So
Yeah.
you have those pilot squeeze bottles, and
I
that's
like
what you
that.
get. Yeah, they're anti-spill too, so hopefully that'll make maintenance cleaner, right? Because
That's true.
to an extent, yeah. Would you rather drop like a big gulp, or one of those pilot squeeze bottles?
Oh, for
It's
sure, the
night and
squeeze
day.
bottles.
Yeah, they have a built-in
We
straw.
and we could sell souvenir ones. They could be refillable.
Right. Different little caps on top that are a
Yeah.
Zaku, or Federation colors, whatever. That's the issue with merch. There's just so many things to Gundamize that there's almost a limited point in talking about them.
Right.
Also about food, I felt like, well, I might not be too big of a fan of the show, but my God, G Gundam has every country involved from around
Oh,
the
you're
world.
right.
Why can't we have the food reflected in that way? So I thought in the sort of food court kind of area that instead of having just science Mexican food or whatever, we would have tequila Gundam, and then the Chinese, and then you go over to him, and at his feet is like the the booth for the Mexican food. You can get
Yeah.
tacos there or whatever. If you can go to like the Master Gundam or Kowloon Gundam, and at his feet will be the Chinese food booth, and you can get like orange chicken or whatever. And Gundam Maxter, and he'll have barbecue and burgers. Yeah, you write it yourself.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, that gives you all the food you need, right, for the park.
Exactly.
That's
Pretty
perfect.
much. Yeah, and what better way to represent each type of ethnic food that you'd get than the Gundam that corresponds to that country.
That very much lines up with like the Epcot eating area at
Exactly. Yeah.
Disney World. I think they have different cuisine from all the different countries that are featured there. So
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Did you have anything about like other types of merchandise?
So yeah, I thought about merchandise, and
Do it.
I tried to think of, like, obviously Gundam is already a very heavily merchandised brand, right? So they've kind of almost done everything that you possibly could with Gundam merchandise. I was trying to think of, like, well, what do you get at Disneyland that you can only get at Disneyland, and how do I Gundamize that? And so one thing that you would need, it would be Mickey ears, right? So what is the Gundam equivalent of Mickey ears? So I figure you could have two. You could have Gundam V fins, right, that you could put on your head, and you could you could buy whichever V fin from your favorite mobile suit that you want. It would basically look like a little crown, you have the little jewel thing in the middle, and then the antennas. And then if maybe you're not a Federation sympathizer and instead you're a Xeon, you could buy a Zaku mono eye visor with an antenna that flips
Pretty cool.
up. There's like a little way you could move the mono eye around, which
Yeah.
would be pretty funny, and it could light up or something,
Yeah.
at night or glow in the dark. So that's one thing. A big thing they're selling now at Disneyland because of Star Wars is lightsabers. So Gundam has its own version of lightsabers, which is beam sabers. So you could go get your favorite beam saber from your favorite mobile suit. Different suits have different beam sabers.
Wow.
Some are pretty cool. Some are more generic than others, but some are very distinct. For example, New Gundam's saber is pretty cool. Has the beam hilt. The crossbone Gundam's beam sabers are really neat. Gundam X has cool beam sabers. So I think there's some opportunities there.
What if you're the kid that like you only want like a heat hawk?
Oh, you could definitely sell a heat
You
hawk.
want a heat saber?
Yeah, you could get the Dom, the heat rod, heat saber,
Yeah.
heat hawk for sure, man. You get the beam Naginata from the Gelgoogs. You gotta have those,
You think the kids with the beam sabers will bully the kid with the heat rod and the heat hawk?
Maybe, I don't know, man. That kid with the heat hawk could be pretty dangerous. It's an axe, man. He could probably swing that thing faster than he could the beam saber.
There's a lot more weight in it, I'll guarantee that.
And then my last piece of merchandise was not really merchandise, but it was based on the PhotoPass system at Disneyland. They set up areas that are good, like picture taking opportunities. And so I'm thinking maybe you could get some war photos taken
Oh
with like
wow.
you and your friends. Like they have uniforms that you could put on, and you could all get into a pose. Because I feel like there's war photos in every show almost. There's
Yeah.
definitely some in like 0083 with Ko and the crew. I'm pretty sure there's some in 8th MS team. So I think it'd be fun if you were all in either Federation or Xeon uniforms, and maybe if you're taking a Xeon one, you could sit on Dagman's throne. Maybe they have a little area where you could.
How dare they? That's how we know these aren't true Xeon fans, because there's only one man who can sit on that throne.
Only one man who could fill that throne.
Exactly. I feel bad for the kid that got like the heat rod. Like all the kids with the beam sabers are like, oh, my beam saber's green. Oh, my green saber's pink. Oh, my beam saber's red. And I'm like, well, my stick heats up.
To a bright yellow.
My stick heats up and turns metal molten.
How about what do you got for merchandise? Anything special?
I didn't go too in depth, but I thought, okay, we definitely need very high quality normal suits and pilot suits.
Yeah.
Maybe like pilot type jackets. I noticed Ko and cool kind of puffy Top Gun type jackets. Those pilot jackets. Also high quality uniforms.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You could sell like different pilot jackets from the different factions. You could have Federation,
Right.
you could have Titans, Xeon, Lundo Bell, Echous, runs the whole gamut. So that's a good idea.
For the fans, different patches too. Maybe you're a big fan of Thunderbolt, so you want like the Living Dead regiment on it.
Yeah.
Maybe you love 08th MS team, so you want the 8th MS team patch on your Federation jacket. Things like that. Maybe you just want the officer hats. Maybe you get those ridiculous Xeon kind of samurai looking helmets, or you want the cool like officer hats that the Federation has.
Yeah, that's a good high end collectible, right? That one's gonna cost you some real coin there.
Probably, but yeah. Or you can just get the sort of regular baseball caps that might say Anaheim Electronics or has a Titans logo on it or something.
Is that what the kid with the heat rod gets?
What, the Anaheim Electronics?
just like the cheap hat, like not like.
Well, depending on if he's been bullied, I think the kid with the heat rod might be like very bitter, so he'll get like a blue Cosmos hat. Say, for the preservation of our blue and pure world. Closing out, I think the last thing on my list is, I don't have the details completely mapped out, but I wanted some type of, I'm calling it a park metagame. I felt like you're an attendee, maybe a child. You come to the park and you're given a colony passport at the entrance. So that's kind of like maybe your ticket in a way or something like that. We'll work the details out later. It's got your name. It's got your information. Maybe it printed out what colony you're actually from, or maybe it says you're from Earth or something. But it'd be cool if it has like maybe like a page glued to a page, not in a way that's impossible to find, but maybe it's, you open it up after you're handed it to you by a park attendee at the gate where you enter, and you peel it back or something in your little colony passport, and it says you're a secret new type.
Ooh.
And I like the idea of, okay, now the kid has this secret new type thing, and they're like, oh my god, I'm a new type. So they take the passport, and there's instructions in there that, okay, at different areas in the park, you're going to see these little scanners. You need to scan your passport in there. I'm thinking in some ways it's going to be the Wizarding World's wands. So you can sort of take your little new type passport. Maybe you'll stand in certain areas of the park, and something will prompt you, or there'll be instructions like, raise your hand or something. And then, your new type abilities will let you, I don't know, maybe telekinetically move something, or I don't know, something along those lines. So I like that it would show new type abilities to like a lot of people visiting that would get this colony passport. And I also want it to be free. I wanted it to be something that's be sort of like a free souvenir, essentially, that you just get for coming to the park. Maybe you're not going to get gifts for whatever reason or other souvenirs, but you at least get your colony passport that says you're a new type. It's got your picture on it, what colony you're from, and all that. And yeah,
Ooh, and they'll assign you an ace pilot name.
yeah, maybe, or it would. I don't know. We could do that. Sure, it'll say you're licensed to pilot a Gundam class or Zaku class or something like that.
Yeah, I like that because that is both interactive, which is
Yeah.
great, and by interactive I mean like it's interactive around the park, which is great. So with the environment that they're in, and then also it kind of reminds me of a little bit of like the Willy Wonka golden ticket idea, right? Like I like
Yeah.
that it's sort of exclusive. Like it doesn't happen to everybody. If you gave it to the right kid, you could make them feel real special for that day. So.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much you could do with this sort of secret passport idea, I think it's Fantasyland at Disneyland. There's like the Sword in the Stone show. There's no reason we can't have something similar like a Gundam cockpit experience or emergency deployment or something where there's, General Rebel gets up with some officers and they're like, oh, we need an emergency deployment or something. And like, we need a young new type pilot to help us.
Maybe some kid has to get in the unicorn and activate it. Maybe it won't activate for like the normal soldiers or something.
Right. Yeah. So it's a jumping off point. I just like the idea of we see so much travel in Gundam between the colonies, right? Every season there's so many people always traveling, and we see them at like the terminals and all that. So why not sort of take that, bring it into real life, but at the same time also, give people kind of a wink and a nudge, like, hey, it turns out you were a new type, and really let them do something interactive with the passport that would be a very personalized experience for them at the park.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
So yeah, I think that's all my ideas. Brian, do you have anything else as far as?
That's my list pretty much. The one idea I had that I rejected because I thought maybe it was too sad would be like a memorial to to Tekkadan in like the Mars area. It'd be like the ruins of Gundam Barbatos, and you could go see that plaque that was in the show. But then I thought that's a little depressing. Kids wouldn't want to go see that. So.
You know what? I think something like that could work. Like, okay, there's going to be obviously restaurants and stuff, right? I think maybe like a lot of theme parks maybe there'll be alcohol served. I think a lot of fighter pilots, bars did this, right? Where they have like the poster and like the shot glass that's filled up for the pilot that didn't come back, right?
Oh yeah, maybe.
So maybe you could do something like that for pilots we've lost.
Oh man, so sad.
But it is a bit of a downer. But you know what? If it's in the bar, the kids aren't going to look at it, and the adults won't be, taken down too much by it. I hope, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you could put a picture up of Amuro and it says "missing in action" or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you seen me? Yeah.
But then again, there's some conflict there, right? Like, who are we actually going to have walking around the park? Like,
right.
We can't. Yeah, we can't have Amuro doing that, and then also he's listed as missing in action or something like that, right? We can't have Mikazuki.
Yeah.
And then you can meet him over by the SD Gundams or something.
Well, you can have Mikazuki, but he has to be tethered to the the Barbatos.
He can't use the left side of his body.
Oh, so sad. Well, I hope you all enjoyed our trip to Gundam Land. Any last thoughts, Isaac?
Yeah. Comment below what you would want at a Gundam theme park if you had absolute control and unlimited budget.
What are your rides? What are your attractions? What are your parades, your live shows? What merch would you sell?
Tell us. Tell us.
So please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can leave us a comment on YouTube or on Twitter at Colony Dropcast. Till next time.
See ya. Take care.
Gundam Land sounds great. I want to go.
One day. Well, Brian,
be like,
close your,
like 85 and they'll finally open a Gundam Land and we'll be like too old to ride any of this shit.
You're like, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down on the Zaku coaster.
Put me on the Zaku. God damn it.